Hey, good morning, everyone. So let me pull up our PowerPoint. It always takes a second. Where did it go? So I'll give everyone about a minute to get in, and then I'll start calling everyone in. I know it's kind of early, everyone's first period. Please remember to, keep your mic muted. And let's see. I have to pull up my PowerPoint from. Oh, I remember. Okay. I get I think of questions for the week, and then I sometimes forget what they are from after doing them on Monday. So, hold on. Okay, so
All
right, so I'm going to call students in. As we get started, our community circle question to take attendance is, what's the most useful thing you've learned this year? We're getting really good with this, and things are starting to streamline, which is great with our new hybrid schedule. So this shouldn't take too long. As we work with this wonky schedule, I feel like the bulk of our schedule has been placed in the afternoon. This whole 40 minutes in the morning thing, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard your other teachers talk about it. It's just a weird use of time. All right, so I'm gonna call students in and we'll get started. I need Milo, Twain, Cash, Alex, and Jake. So we're working with cohort A. So we'll work our way down the list, and I'll start from bottom to top. And so I won't start with Damien. So what's the most useful thing you've learned this year? So one of the most useful things I've learned this year is really just working with changing schedules and, adapting things on the fly. As, we've had several schedule changes this year. If we think about what we started with at the beginning of the year and just trying to figure out, how to make things work in our classes. And also getting better with technology and working with Microsoft Suite. I'd say I've gotten kind of better with it. Trip, what about you? What's the most useful thing you've learned this year? Subtraction?
No. Adaption. I feel like it when a new change comes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. And then, that's still not here. Max, what about you?
Probably algebra.
Algebra, yeah, that's really cool because algebra is pretty hard. I had to relearn a lot of algebra this year. I was like, whoa, this is hard. So congrats for you being able to do it in the remote setting. You're also learning a lot of really good skills. If you can learn algebra online or just even math, a lot of good time management skills, project management skills, self-management skills. It may not seem like you're actively learning it, but it's something that you passively learn as you get thrown into a different learning environment. Jake, what about you? Jake, let me know if you're here. Type something in the chat. Miles, what about you? Miles, what's the most useful thing you've learned this year?
What was the question?
So if you're also, you should also be following along with a PowerPoint on Teams too. So I always have the question posted, what we're doing and what we're talking about. So what's the most useful thing you've learned this year?
I don't know. Probably algebra.
Okay, cool. Give me 1 second to take attendance. Looks like it's just 1, 2, 3. Cool. Let's see. Mr. Buchanan, what about you?
Probably, I've always been pretty good at it, but just the ability to continue to adapt. I mean, just kind of show patience. I think this year has been, last year has been vital to, being able to adapt and, just being patient with all kinds of situations.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really good one. I'm learning I'm not as good at adapting or changing the older I get. Like, the older I get, the harder it gets, and I'm like, what's going on with myself? That's me saying that to myself. That's weird. Like, it seemed better in my head when I was saying it. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. And then Damien, so Milo, happy to see you. We're talking about what's the most useful thing you've learned this year. And then Damien, what about you? What's the most useful thing you've learned this year?
How to get more watch hours.
What are watch hours?
Basically, the kind of like how many, like, it depends on your views. Like, it's kind of hard to explain it, but I'm just trying to get a lot of watch hours so I can be so I can make a membership.
Okay, cool. And Milo, last but not least, what's the most useful thing you've learned this year? Oh, you put in the chat. I don't get notified. How to make stickers. How do you make stickers? I want to make stickers. I've been wanting to make stickers for so long. Do you have like a sticker making machine?
No. So you draw your little sticker design thing, and then you like cut it out, but with like leaving like an inch of paper between the drawing and it. So you like cut an inch away from the actual drawing, and you need the drawing, clear packing tape, and wax paper. And so you put down a strip of clear packing tape, and you place the sticker on the clear packing tape, and you should make the sticker kind of small because this kind of only works for small stickers. And once you lay it down, you put down another piece of clear packing tape over top of that, and then you cut the sticker out, again leaving like an inch of space between the sticker and where you cut. And then you just peel off the wax paper from the back, and when you're ready to put it on something.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's like homemade stickers.
Yeah.
I had friends who made buttons. They had like a button pressing machine. He's also more of like I don't want to say printmaker, but he makes like zines and just a lot of screen printing. So he'd always make really cool buttons. That would be cool to do. Hey, cool. Thanks for the good idea. Okay, so what we'll do as we get better at this and streamlining it, we we have our schedule today. So I'm thinking, we all have to sign in the morning, at this time. I didn't make the schedule. But we also have this time in the afternoon. It's a lot of time to have together. So I'm thinking, maybe during fourth period, since we're kind of streamlining things, it won't take as long. Or we'll do, lessons on note-taking, using flashcards, studying for tests, things like that. The hard thing is we only see each other once or twice a week. So yeah, we're still kind of playing with the schedule, but I don't think fourth period in the morning should be able to take as long. But that being said, you still have to come. Because, yeah, I like I said, I didn't make the schedule. And you also have to come in the afternoon, whether, if you're in person, you'll be here, or at least checking in with Mr. Buchanan, making a plan and showing him, like the progress that you've made. Mr. Buchanan should always be online. If not, then I can, let you know and check in with you, or you can submit an assignment into Schoology, or whatever, the assignment is. Mr. Buchanan, I guess I still need to talk to you about, if we want to have group, split the asynchronous group or the remote group on, Tuesday into two different groups, and then that way you're not trying to work with 5 or 6 students all at one time. So let me know, maybe we can talk about it Wednesday.
Oh, no, I think it's actually been pretty good, in all honesty. Just because there's definitely different variations of kids that need support, and most of them so far have been able to do a lot of it independently. They just maybe ask a question here or there, and they're just continuing to work. So it's been pretty good. But yeah, we can if we see that it's there's a trend going, then we could definitely talk about it. But so far, it seems pretty good. Okay,
cool. And so we'll meet in the AM. We'll kind of meet with either Mr. Buchanan or same thing that we've been doing. I want you to go through the source independently. First missing assignments. If not planning for upcoming projects. So if I know Miss Nevitt has a history project coming up that doesn't have very many guidelines. So you need to kind of make a plan thinking about how you're going to put together a PowerPoint if you're in Miss Nevitt's class, studying for tests and where to find info in Schoology. So we'll kind of create a plan and then meet in the afternoon and work on the plan. So afternoon is an hour and 15 minutes. So, go through the source. I'll give you 5 minutes, and then we'll, as you're going through the source, so you would be going through the source right after the slide, and find, assignments that you need to work on. So either past assignments that are late or upcoming assignments, make sure what you need for later. So if you need a calculator, make sure to bring that. Knowing how you will turn it in, if it's a PowerPoint and an assignment on Schoology, what the directions are, and where the directions are. This also includes rubrics. But you need to leave it up a little bit. And, this one, and emailing teacher to ask for help. So if you're I'm so lost, I don't know what to do, you can email things to email your teacher. I need more direction checked for how to work on this assignment. I don't know where the directions are. Do not put I am lost, because maybe the teacher doesn't know how you're lost. So be very specific. Be very specific. I don't know what the directions are. Yeah, things like that. So, okay, like I just said, in the morning, go through the source, identify what you need to work on today. And this is, we'll change these up. Max trip. Max trip, that would be really good, want to say moniker or screen name for something like Max Payne, but Max Trip. Maybe I drank too much coffee this morning. There we go. So I'll take Miles, Max, Trip, and then Mr. Kim, Damien, Milo, and Jake. So same thing, coming up with a plan and also being really specific. So I'll give you 5 minutes, and I'm gonna set a timer, yell at Siri, and then I'll come check in with you. So yeah, being very specific about like what you need, like what page it is, what the topic is. When we know more specifics about like what we'll be working on in the future, it gives our brain a chance to sort of unconsciously start to process it. So instead of being like, oh, I'm going to work on homework, being like, oh, I'm going to work on page 4, and I'm going to work on, specifically working with substitution. That's just an example. But, when the time comes, you won't need to think about like, what was that page, or like, what are we working on, trying to like frame it, or wrap your head around it, because you'll already be there. So trying to take shortcuts in planning. Okay, cool. So you're welcome to, so if you're Damien, Milo, or Jake, Mr. Buchanan will hop out, give you a call, and Miles, Max, and Trip, I'll put you into breakout rooms. Talking really quick, but yeah, I think we can get through this pretty quickly. And I'm going to set a timer.
Milo, how's it? Oh, it's so hard to get over here, Damien.
What?
Oh, you just grunted and moaned.
No, I just yawned.
Oh, that was yawn.
Mhm.
Interesting yawn. What's going on, Jake?
He's busy playing games.
You guys know the drill. Alright, so I'll give you guys 5 minutes to find out what your plan is for this afternoon. Alright. Then you guys can either write it in the chat, or you guys can verbally tell me, but be specific in what you guys are going to be doing this afternoon, okay? So I'm going to mute my mic and let you guys figure out a plan for this afternoon. If you need anything, let me know. let me know if any of you guys are done yet with your plan for this afternoon. You guys are more than welcome to shout it out to me. Then you guys can head off and get ready for your second period class or fifth period.
You want us to shout out your plan? What do you mean?
Meaning you can just shout it out, like tell me what your plan is,
Oh,
or in the chat. It's up to you guys.
I guess just work on late work.
All right, what's the late work though? You have to be specific.
A history thing and some science.
What's the
I'll
history?
work on some late work too. Like
Something I missed yesterday, and then a quiz on Harriet Tubman, I think.
All right, well go find the science thing that you missed yesterday and tell me what the assignment is, and then you're able to go. Same with you, Damien. You said late work. Tell me what
I said like OneNote work.
Okay, so what are you guys working on your OneNote? Is
Oh,
that
it's
for-
a species. It's a test on species. Where they come from or something like that.
Oh, you missed the second part of your test for science?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about there. What about you, Damien? What's your OneNote?
Oh, can I look now?
Yeah.
The assignment from last week.
What class?
World U.S. history.
Okay, for Miss Nevitt.
No.
Or no, you don't have Miss Nevitt. What am I talking about?
Mr.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys.
Server connection failed. Connection timed out. Server connection failed. Connection timed out.
Oh, coming home, I see. Coming home from a trip. Alright. Alright, you guys, which pet of these would you want? I have pets just like this at home. The sad puppy. There's a lot of sad puppies here. Lots of very destructive dogs. None of you guys have naughty pets like this? Man, you guys are lucky. All of my pets are naughty. The orange one. Oh, the dog who has chewed through a door. It probably has his head stuck. That's why he's so sad. Or the dog with his head stuck in the cushion after he's chewed a big hole in it and has the stuffing flung all over. Dogs love shredding the stuffing out of their beds and such. Last period, somebody said they wanted that bird because they thought it was funny that it chewed apart all those keys. I don't know, that just seems like a really naughty dog. start in just a second, everyone. Waiting for just about 20 more seconds. I wonder what happened to those people. All right. Well, let us get started then. Oh, Yolanda, you mean your little tiny dog did that? I remember seeing your little tiny dog. It was so tiny, I don't see how it could carry such a... You have 4 dogs?
Yeah, it's actually my bigger dog, but he was a puppy.
Oh my gosh. Do you still have that dog?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Getting up to no good. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. We do have a test for today. Thank goodness we will be done with this unit and off onto other things. So this will be the end of our evolutionary history unit today. In class, we will finish that test and be done with it. Although lots of people have been asking, well, what is the answer to the mystery fossil question? What is the mystery fossil? And I will let you know on Friday when we meet. I'll just kind of summarize that for everybody and let you know what the mystery fossil is, and then I'll give you guys some other information about the discovery of the mystery fossil and a little bit of background about that actual fossil. So for today, though, I do want to review some of the key concepts of the 3 different chapters that we went over in this class. We skipped about half of the lessons because it's just going over the same thing for the 5 millionth time, and it gets more and more boring. So we cut everything down about half, and hopefully you had enough opportunities to practice and still understand what the main concepts are so that you can be successful on the test today. So I've graded a couple of classes already, and most people have done really, really well. So I think you guys will be able to do the same. Feel free to take notes today, or take screenshots or photos with your phone. The test is open notes, or open PowerPoint, or whatever. You can go back over everything. But this PowerPoint will summarize everything pretty simply for us. So the first key concept, which is so basic that a lot of times people forget that it even is a thing, but it is because it's so basic, that descendant species inherit their body structures from their ancestor populations, right? So whoever the parent is, right, that's from where you get your DNA inherited from. So that's pretty basic. And when you look at an evolutionary tree that looks like one like this, you can see that humans and whales inherited lots of different traits from their common ancestor. And you can tell 2 different ways. If you were to start with a picture of the whale and you were to follow the little evolutionary line back to the common ancestor, all the way back to the beginning, you can then directly follow the line of DNA. The common ancestor passed its DNA directly off to the blue whale. Same thing with the humans. If you were to start with a picture of the human and you were to follow the line all the way back to the common ancestor, not only would you arrive at the same common ancestor as you did from the whale, you would also have to reason in your head, wait a minute, the common ancestor gave their DNA to both the human and the whale, and therefore they should have many common features. And so it turns out that key concept number 2 tells us that the whale and the human should have very similar shared structures. After all, they had a common ancestor that gave DNA to them, and that therefore if they have common ancestor and that common ancestor is passing along their DNA, it makes sense that the human and the whale then should both have some similar traits. Now it's obvious that the whale and the human are going to be different, right? Because they live in completely different environments, but they still structures. So the whale and the human both have a backbone, right? Because they inherited that from their common ancestor. They both have front limbs, but the human's front limbs look very different from the whales because we live in different environments, but we still have similar shared structures. They're not the same, but they are similar. Welcome, Ms. Gdansky and Mr. Tyler. Ms. Gdansky, I saw your computer was restarting, and so that is okay. That happens to all of us all the time. Okay, so we're just reviewing for our test today. Does anyone have any questions about Key Concept 1 or Key Concept 2? These are the most basic of the things that we have discussed. Okay, let me know if I need to go back to that slide. You guys can let me know. All right, and then we started talking more about environments and how environments play a role in the structures that animals actually have. So here on the right side of your screen, you will see a common ancestor at the top. That thing kind of looks like a deer or a cow or something like that. And then as you go down, right, that means time is going by. So the common ancestor is really, really old, millions of years back. And then over time, as we go down the page, we get down the page to each of these descendant species until we get to today's common whale. So when you look at a evolutionary tree like this, or an evolutionary line of how the species has changed over time, you can see that this animal at the top looks very different from the animal that's at the bottom, but they are all related to each other. Okay, so in the third key concept, we would say that as animals separate into different environments, maybe it's hotter or colder or drier or wetter, or has this kind of predator or that kind of predator, or this kind of plant or that kind of plant. Those are all different environments. As animals are separated into different environments, natural selection plays a part in defining what those structures are going to be like. What I mean by that is the animal that's at the top, the common ancestor, most likely lived on land. It's got long legs for traveling long distances on land. It's got hoofs, right? So it's got extra protection on its feet for walking long distances. But at the bottom of the page, we have an animal that's living in the water. And so even though the animal at the top and the animal at the bottom share structures, they all have a backbone, they all have a skull, they all have tails, right? They all have front limbs, but look at how they've changed over time. They have changed over time because of the environment that the animal is surviving in. So an animal that's living in the water, it has more adaptive traits for swimming in the water, whereas the animal on land has more adaptive traits for living there. So the other very closely related topic, we talked about this I think last time that we met, or key concept would be that if the environment stays the same and there's no changes to the environment, animals aren't going to change very much. We talked about, I think, the shark or the alligator hasn't really changed over millions of years. Their body structures have stayed relatively constant because the environment in which they live has stayed the constant. The predators the prey that they prey upon has stayed pretty constant. Where they live has stayed pretty constant. So there really isn't going to be much in the way of changes to their body structures. Whereas the animal that you see shown here, clearly the environment that it lived in was changing because it went from a land-living animal into a water-living animal. So since its environment was changing, that's why the animal changed so much over time, okay? And over long periods of time, little teeny tiny changes add up to big differences. So if you look at the animal at the top, right, and you look at the animal at the bottom, you would swear they weren't related at all. I mean, look at the things. They don't even look alike. But then if you go back and you look at little tiny changes that happened over millions of years, those changes added up to big changes over time. So remember, evolution is a really slow process. We're talking about tens of thousands, usually more like millions and millions of years for changes like this to occur. You don't go from a cow-like creature like it's at the top of the page and jump down to a whale in, a few thousand or a few million years. It doesn't work like that. It's little tiny changes over time. Look at the tail, just the tail, right? You can see that the tail and the spinal cord have changed just a tiny bit over time, but that adds up to a big change over a longer period of time. And look at the legs of the animal at the top, how they've gotten shorter and shorter and shorter and differently shaped as you go along. But just little tiny changes, those small changes can build up to large differences over time. Okay, does anyone have a question about these concepts, about how the environment plays a part in shaping how an animal is going to look, how it's going to survive? Remember, random mutations is where it starts, but it's natural selection that selects for those traits that are the best. Any questions? All right, so let's practice for a second. Let's start with a cat. Most of us are familiar with cats and cows. So cats have teeth, and cat teeth are really, really sharp. They're meant for piercing and tearing flesh. Maybe even your own. If you have a cat, cats sometimes strike out at their owners with their teeth. Cows, on the other hand, have completely different teeth. Their teeth are flat and stubby, and they're meant for mashing and grinding plants. Okay? Who can tell me how it's possible, what it means, the fact that both of these animals have teeth? The fact that cats and cows both have teeth means what? Can anybody just unmute themselves and tell me? What does it mean? Aiden, go for it.
The ancestor had teeth.
Yes, that they both had a common ancestor, and their ancestor had teeth. We don't know what kind of teeth they had, but the common ancestor of a cat and a cow, throw in humans, we've got teeth too. We all must have a common ancestor because we share that structure of having teeth. So because we share that common structure, even though they look a little bit different, we definitely all have a common ancestor. So here's the second part of the question. Why is it that cat teeth are so different than cow teeth? How do they get to be so different? Anybody, you can just unmute and let me know. How does that happen, that they get to be so different? Jack?
Sometime there was a random mutation that gave them those teeth, and their environment favored it. That's why they passed it down.
Very, very good. Keziah, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say they evolved to have different teeth.
They evolved to have different teeth. Okay, that's another way to look at it. And both of you guys together, right? Those ideas of evolving or adapting to have different types of teeth for different environments is really, really important. So even though cats and cows and humans all have a common ancestor, right? They have different teeth because of random mutations and then the environment in which they live. So cows live in an environment where they spend most of their time in grasses. And therefore, cows that have sharp teeth like cats aren't going to make it. They're not going to survive. Because having sharp teeth and trying to pull grass up with sharp teeth. I mean, my dog does that, and she gets one blade of grass at a time, and then she tries to chew it, and then she eats the whole piece of grass that's this long, and then it gets stuck in her throat, and then she throws it up. If teeth, and then their environment selects for the teeth or whatever trait it is that is beneficial to them that they can then pass on to their offspring. Anyone have any questions about that, or anyone want to add anything to it? Pretty good. All right. Well, let's move on. So on the test, you will see a picture that looks like this 2 or 3 different times. And every time it will be a different group of 3 different animals. So it's really the same question that they're asking multiple different times. And this question is going to ask you to compare with a data table 3 different animals. And this is kind of like what you did with the mystery fossil, but we made our own data table. We made our own list of things that these animals looked like they had in common based on what we can see with their bone structures. So we have a wolverine, a rat, and a beaver, and we can see that they have some things in common and they have some differences. So the first question is, what can we say that's true about all 3 of these animals? Anything. What can we say is true about all of them? Somebody just unmute and tell us. What can we tell about all 3 of these animals? Kazaya, what can we tell?
They're all mammals and they all have a backbone.
They're all mammals. They all have a backbone. Okay. And then what does that mean if they're all mammals and they all have a backbone? Anybody, just shout it out. They all have a
Common ancestor.
They all have a common ancestor. Okay? And you can even go beyond that. I mean, you guys know that, well, they all have fur, right? They all have, I can see some of their limbs in the picture, but I actually know what rat limbs look like. I can see their arms. I know that they have similar structures of arms. They've got kind of little miniature hands. They're all mammals, so they give live birth. I mean, they have lots of things in common, and that's proof that they had a common ancestor. But 2 of these animals are more closely related to each other than they are to the 3rd. Does anybody know which 2 are more closely related or most closely related? They're all related, but there's 2 that are closer. Which 2 are more closely related? Tova?
Is it the beaver and the wolverine?
Not the beaver and the wolverine. That's a good guess. Addie, what do you think?
The rat and the beaver.
How come the rat and the beaver? Can you tell me, Addie?
They both have, quote, continuous growing wedge-shaped incisors.
Okay. Leia, how did you know it was the rat and the beaver?
Just one thing, my internet wasn't working, so I switched to my phone. I missed like the last 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
Oh, that's okay. I won't ask you the question. I don't even know if you can actually see the picture that I'm sharing right now, but we have a wolverine, a rat, and a beaver, and we have some data about them, and we're trying to determine how we know that the rat and the beaver are more closely related to each other. And this question is actually on the test, so everybody, I want us to know exactly how to answer this. How do we know the rat and the beaver are more closely related? And I don't know if Leia, if you want to answer it, you can, but I don't want to put you on the spot since you left and came back.
I can maybe answer it. They have similar colored fur and more similar in size.
Okay, they're more similar in colors of fur, more similar in size, and actually, if you could see the data table, everyone, they have more things in common, okay? They have more things in common. So, Leia, you're doing the right thing in trying to look for things that are more similar. Just like with the mystery fossil, we were trying to find out if the mystery fossil was most or more closely related to the wolf or the whale, and we were looking for whichever animal species had more things in common with the mystery fossil. It's the same thing with this. Have 3 three things in common: a backbone, a mammal, and continuous growing wedge-shaped incisors. Okay? And because of that, that means, oh, we've got bad echoing here. I don't know if you guys are getting that on your end, but that was crazy. Okay, so because they have more things in common, they are more closely related. In other words, they just more recently branched off the evolutionary tree from each other, and wolverines branched off some other time because they've got different types of teeth. Does anyone have a question about this? Okay, so important to note this type of question because it is on your test at least twice, maybe 3 different times. No questions? Okay, then this is the same type of question. This is the same question, only instead of using pretty pictures, right? Now it's actually showing you an evolutionary tree, but it's going to get at the same type of thing. So amongst any 3 species, like the rat, the beaver, and the wolverine, amongst any 3 species, those 2 that most recently separated will have more things in common. In other words, let's look at these 3, H, I, and F. H and I have more things in common with each other. They have more things in common with each other than they do with F, just like the rat and the beaver have more things in common. H and I all have the white piece, 1 blue piece at least, and they have 2 yellow pieces each. F is slightly different. H and I are more closely related because they have more structures in common. That's the whole point. Another way to say that is this. If 2 species share a structure that is not shared with the third, right? And I'll show you, I'll go back to the rat and the beaver here in just a second, right? The first 2 species that are more closely related are going to have more things in common. So if we look at this, H, I, and J, we talked about this a few days ago, H and I have more things in common than they do with J. J has similar structures to H and I, but H and I have those yellow pieces and J doesn't share that. So it's all about common structures. It's the this is the exact same type of question. It's just showing it with pictures rather than with an evolutionary tree or a map kind of way to look at it. The rat and the beaver have more things in common with each other than they do with the wolverine. Even though all of them are related, the rat and the beaver separated off the evolutionary tree more recently, so they have more things in common than they do with the wolverine. The wolverine has separated sometime later. Maybe Jay is like the wolverine. It lives in a different environment. It's got different things going on in its environment in terms of natural selection, so it has evolved slightly differently. Even though it shares common features with H and I, it's more different because it branched off and went a different direction. Okay, you are going to see on your test not weird and strange, complicated evolutionary trees like the one I just showed you. You're going to see evolutionary trees that look more like this. Okay, they're a little more straightforward and a little less jumbled around. And from a tree that looks like this, you should be able to tell that all of these animals have a common ancestor just by looking at the tree. Can anyone in here tell me how you could look at the tree and tell us that they all have a common ancestor? How could you tell that they have a common ancestor by looking at this tree? Maxine?
Because they're all branching out from one point.
They're all branching out from one point. In other words, if you pick any animal, right, pick any one, and you follow the line back down till you can't go anymore, you end up at the bottom of the page. And if you pick another animal and you follow it down, you land right in the same place. There's a common origin or a common ancestor from which all of these branch off of, okay? Then you'll have on the test to answer a question and ask a question like this. Is the human more closely related to the cat or the duck? that? Is the human closer to a cat or more closely related to a duck? Keziah?
Because it's still connected to the cat, or like they branched off more recently, but then the duck is further away and branched off.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. The cat and the human are more closely connected. They just branched off from one another. Whereas if you follow from the human to get to the duck, you have to go way over here, and you have to pass a few branches before you can get to the duck. So the duck is slightly more removed from the human and the cat, which are more close actually on the evolutionary tree. As one student pointed out last period, they also said, well, also humans and cats are both mammals and they give live birth, whereas ducks lay eggs. So that also, if you knew that, you could actually use that to help sort of solve the problem about who's more closely related to who. But you can also tell just by looking at the tree. This is another way evolutionary trees are shown, and I don't want you guys to be thrown off by this if you happen to see one on the test that looks like this. It doesn't look like this, but it's showing the same thing. The branching pattern looks a little bit different. This is another pretty common way to share trees. Yes, Miss Gdansky?
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so come on, my computer restarts. But we saw these in the Life Has a History back a while ago, and they were called cladograms, I believe.
Yes.
And we saw them with like there were red and blue and green, showing how things branched off. So you guys have seen these before. It's just been a while.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I had actually forgotten that we had seen those before. You are right, Miss Gdansky. And I think the ones that you guys saw before might have looked more like the one that I'm showing now, maybe. And you can tell that all of these animals have a common ancestor, because if you pick an animal, pick your favorite one, and you put your finger on it and you follow it all the way down to the beginning at the bottom of the page, right? And you pick another animal, follow it all the way down to the beginning, you arrive at the same spot. And that common origin, that same spot at the bottom of the page, tells us that they all had a common ancestor. But what about this question? Is a chimpanzee more closely related to a lamprey or a bear? Somebody unmute and tell us what you think. More closely related to a lamprey or a bear? That little chimpanzee, bear-like or lamprey? Definitely a bear. And we could say that it's more closely related to a bear because they just branched off from each other. They are right there at the end of this evolutionary tree. They just branched off. To get to the lamprey, you have to go all the way back to the bottom and then over. That the lamprey and the chimpanzee have separated long time ago. Okay? They still have a common ancestor. They still have many common features with each other, right? But the chimpanzee and a bear will have more things in common than they will with a lamprey. Just like with, back to this guy, the rat and the beaver have more things in common with each other than they do with the wolverine, because they branched off. The wolverine branched off at a different time. Okay, does anyone have any questions about evolutionary trees or anything like that? Anybody want to go back to any slide that you're like, yeah, but I don't understand this type of question? Anything like that? The test is pretty straightforward. It's relatively short. So I can't think of any other types of questions that might throw anyone for a loop. Okay, well, I wanted to share this with you. Several of you have asked this question in the last unit. Some of you asked it again this time, because it's all nice and fine to learn about evolution of other other animals and how they have changed over time. But a lot of times people are sort of interested in people. How have humans changed over time? And we saw some great videos of, you know, how humans, earliest humans, you know, lived in trees and on the ground, and then slowly came down from the trees and started doing a lot more upright walking and things like that. We saw lots of good things about how humans have changed over the last 100,000 years. And our evolution has been pretty remarkable. But some of you have been asking, is there any evidence of human evolution like happening right now, like in the last few hundred years? Is there anything that scientists could put their finger on and say humans are actually evolving at this very moment? And first of all, everything's constantly evolving, because all living things are constantly undergoing mutations, and those mutations are always being selected for. It's always happening. It never, ever, ever stops. So for those of you who ask the question, are humans evolving right now as we speak? The answer is yes. But remember, evolution takes a really, really long time. So here's what here's what scientists are hypothesizing about right this second about human evolution, and something we might be able to actually put our finger on and say, this is evolution happening to humans right now. So I don't know how many of you have any of these autoimmune diseases, but some of them are really common. Autoimmune diseases are things like allergies, asthma, psoriasis, eczema, certain types of arthritis. These things are all celiac disease, inability to eat meat, right? These things are all autoimmune diseases, and they can really make our lives miserable, okay? They can be really, really serious, like bee stings that can send you to the hospital, like different types of food allergies. If you eat a peanut, your throat will swell up and you're in the hospital. Some of them are really serious, and some of them are just annoying. Like if you've got a tiny little patch of itchy skin, like eczema, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so obnoxious. But I mean, ranging from the deadly serious autoimmune diseases to the, you know, just mildly annoying, many of you have these, right? Some of us have multiple of these. And you might think, wow, this is just really lame that I have to live with this autoimmune disease. But scientists actually think that these autoimmune diseases are actually a beneficial mutation that has occurred in humans over about the last 500 years. And you might be thinking, a beneficial mutation? Having asthma is a benefit? The answer to that might be yes. And the reason why is, over the last 500 years, scientists have noted that the rates of cancer in humans has gone up and up and up and up. Okay? Now the reasons for the rates of cancer going up, there's all kinds of possibilities. But scientists have noticed as the rates of cancer have gone up, so too have the autoimmune diseases. Now think about this for a second. An autoimmune disease is when your immune system is hyperactive. It's so on the ball that it actually starts bothering your own body, right? That's what an autoimmune disease is. But let's say you have cancer growing in your body. We all have cancer cells in our body, but your immune system attacks it and gets rid of it. If you're a person that has a hyperactive immune system, which gives you asthma, if you have cancer cells in your body, your hyperactive immune system is going to kill the cancer cells and make it hard for you to breathe, right? When you have an asthma attack. But what is the benefit? The benefit is you disable the cancer scientists actually are thinking that those of us with autoimmune diseases might actually be combating the rise of cancer. It actually might be a mutation that, if it's a good mutation and we're not getting cancer and we're passing those autoimmune afflictions on to our offspring, then they too will not have cancer. And so the rates of autoimmune diseases or disorders has gone up and up and up over time, and scientists think it may have something to do with the rates of cancer. So as our environment changes and the rates of cancer increase, that autoimmune diseases might actually be protecting us. So if you have any one of these autoimmune diseases, woohoo, maybe you won't have as much cancer in your body. That's always the benefit. So scientists aren't sure about this. This is just a maybe, kind of, sort of. They're not really sure, but they're going to watch that really carefully. Over the next few thousand years, they will have an answer. They can't tell us yet because evolution is a really, really slow process. Does anyone have any questions about this? I thought it was a better way to think about things that might be really troubling us because it could be preventing us from getting cancer. So embrace your autoimmune disease if you have one. All right, everyone, your job. I need you guys to be checking the source. So I know that you might be able to check today. You'll definitely be able to check tomorrow on Wednesday. Some of you are missing work, and your missing work and not attending class are causing your grades to fall. And after all of the hard work that most of you have done all year, to have your grades fall at the end of the quarter is just a big, giant bummer. So I want to remind everyone you have about 5 weeks to put things in order, right? About 5 weeks to complete those assignments. Meet Ms. Gdansky and myself and Mr. Tyler for help on these assignments. That's going to be really important. Otherwise, it's going to pile up at the end, and that's, that doesn't really help. It's not really helpful for anyone. Yes, Ms. Gdansky?
I was going to say, oops, I'm a little echoey.
Oh, here, let me go for it.
Because you guys are going to high school next year, just know that some of all of your 8th grade teachers and counselors are talking with high school teachers and counselors. And just a reminder that the work is going to stay the same or get more as you go to high school. So and we don't know what the fall is going to be yet. So my guess is it'll be some sort of hybrid thing. So even if it's tough to kind of keep going through the end of the year, we only have 5.5 weeks. You guys can do this. We're all here to support you. And we want you to end the year positively. So you've got this. We know you're capable because you've done it for 3 quarters. So we really want you guys to end strong. And we're here to help you with that so that you're ready for high school.
Definitely want to make sure that everyone leaves on a good note and is ready for high school. So there's about 7 of you who didn't complete the fossil summary test from last Friday. I'm not sure why that is. I know many of you didn't actually attend class, and that's probably why you didn't get it done. So you really need to get on that and make sure that work gets done. So today's plan: everybody attends class. Everyone, whether you are literally coming to school or you are coming here online, either way, everyone has to be here at 1:20. We are taking the test at 1:20. Okay, everybody is. If you are not here and taking the test, and you don't have an excused absence for something, you will have points deducted from your test because it isn't fair that everyone else is taking it at the same time. Everyone's taking it at the same time, right? You don't get to wait till this weekend and do it at your convenience. We're kind of moving on from that because, as Ms. Gdansky said, we're trying to get you guys ready for high school, right? We're shifting back to regular school, right? We're going that direction. So we're all going to take the test at the same time. Everybody is here at 1:20. We will take the test. The name of the test is Evolutionary History. And while some of you will be taking it online, at home, some of you will be here in the classroom. That we've done that for the last few weeks. You guys should have everyone here to get that taken care of. can't see people, you should be checking that red folder. There's an assignment for you to do there in addition, because the rest of us will be working on setting things on fire here at school today. So everybody's got some work to do. So please, everyone, I'll see you here at 1:20, and we're heading off to 6th period. Stay here if you have any questions. Bye, everybody. See you later.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. See you later. Bye-bye, everybody. See you soon.
Scale of Baby Yoda, how are you feeling and why? All right. I don't see anything in the chat yet. So in the chat, on a scale of Baby Yoda, how are you feeling today and why? Wow. Okay. Number 9, because I found over 100 pictures on Pinterest of Evan Peters. Great. 4, because you're tired. Fair. I'm a number 2 today. I'm a number 2 because I'm like, so close, sunshine, yes, come here. Reaching out to the beautiful day, sunshine. That's how I am today. 4, because you got to bed too late. Now, in the chat, there's 2 sames. I'm not sure if that's the same to what I said.
I said the same for your sunshine analogy.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. I wasn't sure if it was like a 4 because it's being tired, or same because of the sunshine. A 6 because your grandparents are going back to New Jersey tomorrow. The Garden State. Ouch! Just bumped my knee. Piece of metal under my desk. Ouch. Sorry if you heard that bang. You heard it. I felt it. Alright. And you should open up your OneNote. When you open up your OneNote, raise your hand. You should see Activity 7. If you don't see an Activity 7 there, you might have to refresh. When you have your OneNote open,
You mean activity 11?
Nope. 511, Activity 7. So it should have today's date and then Activity 7. We're not on 11 yet. And every time I hear the number 11, I think of the scene from This Is Spinal Tap. Why 11? Because it's one more than 10. Said that the other day, and my wife just looked at me and she goes, "What?" I'm like, "It's a line from a movie. It's like the most famous line from that movie." And she was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Why 11? One more than 10. There's a company that it's that line in movie. If you've ever looked at a Tesla, they have a setting that goes up to 11. The reason why is because it's one more than 10. It's a tribute to that line in that movie. All right, I see 12 people that have their hands up, indicating to Mr. Haug and I that they have their OneNote open, which is fantastic. And while you guys are doing this, I'm going to take attendance. Open, and they can see 511 Activity 7. Look something like this. to check in on them. Lucas Bagley, are you able to get your OneNote open? All right, I see your hand up. Perfect. Damien, are you able to get your OneNote open? All right, I see all the hands up now. Woo, woo. All right, if you could lower your hands, that would be fantastic. Let's see how quick we can lower the hands down. We're at 12, 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Just waiting on 2 people to lower their hands. No, 1. Can we do it? Can we be the only class today where all the students lowered the hands by themselves? All right. All the hands are down now. Thank you so much. For today, afternoon expectations, just want to let you know that today is an 8A, which means A cohort students, you will be in person with us today. B and C, that means you're online virtual. Today, B and C students, if you have questions on the documents that are part of our afternoon work, like you read it and you're like, I'm not really sure what it's saying, which is quite possible because some of them are maybe a little bit more difficult to understand. So if you have any questions, log into the meeting and Mr. Haug and I will be here to help you with that during our class time today. I will let you guys know in regards to attendance, I use our OneNote as attendance. So I look through our OneNote, and if you're completing it, because I can see that people have completed it, I use that for attendance. So if you're working on that, you're marked as present. If you're not, then you're marked as absent for the afternoon, if you're not in person. All right. With that in mind, our goals for today, our learning targets. By the end of our activities this afternoon, by today, when the sun goes down, this is what you should be able to do. 1, identify the policies of presidential reconstruction in 1865 and 1866, and evaluate whether or not the new Southern society established by presidential reconstruction left many freed people in circumstances resembling the conditions of slavery. In other words, we're going to evaluate on how freed people were under presidential reconstruction. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time at first checking in about Reconstruction, where we are. What I want you to do in this space here on our OneNote, right under Part 1, is I want you to write down 3 things that you have learned about Reconstruction so far in our unit. But we're going to give you quite a bit of time to work on it. So what that means is I want nice developed things that I've learned. And I want you to use evidence from your work that we've done so far. We've done 6 different activities, including today. So you can look at activities 1 through 6 for this and write down your response. And so this is for an example. If you write, hey, I learned during Reconstruction that immediately after emancipation, freed people had the ability to change their names. All right, cool. Why is that important? Why the idea of free people being able to change their names or establish a surname? Why is that important? We need to have that. What did it allow to do? How did it match up with aspirations and hopes and dreams of free people? And that idea. If you write, for example, President Johnson's Reconstruction plan was bad, okay, it's okay to make a judgment like that, but then you need to provide evidence why it was bad. Okay? Or if you say it benefited one group or another, awesome. That's a statement that can be made. nice developed piece of evidence. It's 10:40 right now, and I'm going to give us until 10:52. I'm going to give us until 10:52 to be able to write down our three. That gives us about 12 minutes to write down an evidence-based three things that we've learned. There is an asterisk though. One of the ideas you write down needs to be about either the president's plan or Congress's plan for Reconstruction. And you can pull this from our Activity 6, the Political Struggle OneNote from last week, Friday. All right. I will have my camera and my microphone muted. If you have questions, you can either send a direct message to Mr. Haug or I through Teams. You can put a message into the Teams chat, or you can just speak up through the meeting and go, hey, Mr. Wires, Mr. Haug, I have a question. Ask it. We will be here. We will come back at, I'm looking at the time, I know I said 10:52. I'm going to give us till 10:54. 10:54. Three things that you have learned about Reconstruction so far, using evidence from our work in the previous 6 activities. And there is an asterisk in that part 1, so take a look at it. Yeah, Finn.
My Wi-Fi has been really glitchy all day. I tried restarting my computer like before school, but it didn't help, and if I try and open the OneNote, it just loads for like 10 minutes and then says.
Got it. Do you have a piece of paper by you?
Yes.
All right. Jot them down on a piece of paper next to you.
All right.
All right. All right, we are back. We're going to take a look at our Part 1 Reconstruction Check-In. And what I'm going to do is we're just going to go down the list. I'm down my class roster. And I'm going to ask, hey, I want to hear what is one thing of the 3 that you learned about Reconstruction. And again, I'm looking for, do you have the thing that you learned and is it backed up with your reasoning and evidence? All right, so let's get started. Jack, what's one thing that you learned? All right, Jack, we're gonna cycle back to you on this, on one thing that you learned about Reconstruction. All right, Lucas Bagley. All right, same thing. We're going to cycle back. Will.
That freedmen were allowed to change their name after the war, and once they were freed, and that showed that they actually were able to make their own choices and do what they wanted.
Okay, great. Gave like a little level of independence on that. Okay, great. Aaron.
Yes.
What is one thing from Reconstruction that you've learned about so far, what we've been working on, Part 1? We'll come back to you. All right, Damien.
Can I have a little bit more time to think?
Yep, we'll come back to you. All right, Justin.
Yeah, so I learned that in the Reconstruction era following the Civil War, Congress and President Jackson had a very tense relationship on what should happen to and if the southern states should be punished and what should happen to formerly enslaved people.
Okay, then President Johnson and Congress.
Sorry, I said Jackson, didn't I? My bad.
No worries. There's so many Andrew J's. There's Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson, and so President Johnson and Congress didn't agree, and they had competing ideas and visions of what Reconstruction should be.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, great. And Owen.
One thing that I learned was that President Johnson's plan for Reconstruction kind of benefited Southerners. And I think that it benefited Southerners because it gave pretty minimal requirements for them to rejoin the Union after they lost in the Civil War.
And by Southerners, which Southerners? Because there's several different groups of Southerners. Many freed people are also Southerners.
White Southerners, I guess.
Okay. By white Southerners. Okay, great. And Finn.
I learned that the time, like, after the Civil War it wasn't, like, only about changing after, like, slavery, because a lot of other systems were also changed dramatically after as well.
Okay, can you give any examples?
Yeah, like, banks and their trains and, like, transportation and stuff.
Okay, great. All right, Lizzie. What's one thing about Reconstruction, Lizzie, that you learned? And we'll cycle back to you. All right. Dylan.
That Congress took over the Reconstruction Plan in early 1865, 1866, from President Johnson, and the congressional plan, well, the standards of the southern states supported the newly free slaves, the freedmen, and yeah.
Okay then. And why did Congress take over? Did they like President Johnson's plan, or do they think they didn't do enough?
They didn't like the plan.
Okay,
didn't
because
like, yeah, they didn't like his plan.
because what, particularly towards free people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Lucas H.
Am I saying one thing that I wrote down for the?
Yep.
Okay. Where I said Andrew Johnson ratified the 13th Amendment after being the president after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. And what was significant about the 13th Amendment?
Well, he allowed, or he got rid of slavery apart from if it were related to you committing a crime. So then I also wrote down that black codes happened after that.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you. All right, Olivia.
I wrote that in President Johnson's plan, his original plan for Reconstruction, they used the 14th Amendment, which made everyone who was born in the U.S. a citizen, even if your parents were, which